the Twins in the series finale in Cleveland. That's a wrap on these head-to-head matchups. Cleveland wins. Again, they take 4 out of 5 from the Twins. Let's break this one down on today's Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, your team every day.
And welcome to another edition of our Locked On Twins postcast. Today is Monday, September 19th. I'm the host of Locked On Twins, Nash Walker, here with writer and reporter at Access Twins, Mr. Brandon Warren. Before we get started, has getting older changed your body? Maybe you're getting a bit of a dad bod, feeling a little less like your old self. You don't have time to work out, but you wanted the energy and body you once had. Well, you discovered Nugenix and you felt revived, working out like you used to. Get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text MLB to 231-231. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text MLB to 231-231. That's MLB to 231-231. Message and data rates may apply. Terms apply. Available at nugenix.com/terms. Brandon, Cleveland whoops up on the Twins a little bit here in the series finale. What's your takeaway?
What I don't understand is why Jorge Lopez was ready to go in for the 6th inning with the team trailing by 1. Doesn't give up. Enriquez making his big league debut gives up a 3-run homer, and then all of a sudden Lopez is good to go in the 8th. That one baffles me. I've made a lot of comments about how it's hard to manage a bullpen and how there's a lot of intricacies about that. But man, I mean to tell you, this just was not what I expected at all.
Nick Gordon hit another big home run today, and we've had some young players, young position players have really solid years. Miranda, Gordon, of course, Luis Arraez, guys, hopefully you can build around in the future. Has your view of Gordon changed, Brandon, as far as his role on this team? Because I think for next year, I view him as like the opening day left fielder if they're facing a righty.
Yeah, I see him as a super utility guy, and then the question becomes how super if he can't play short. If he can play short, that puts him in kind of a very special category. And you still have super utility guys who don't play short. Like Ben Zobrist, if he played short, wasn't that much. Marwin Gonzalez really didn't play short at his peak. Perfectly valuable, useful players that either were Twins or were with Tampa Bay or were with Rocco Baldelli, any combination of those. So I think that a role like that would be very beneficial. And yeah, probably starting in left field against a righty if there's any reason that Trevor Larnach or Alex Kirilloff isn't available, or maybe one of them's playing first because Miranda's playing third, any number of reasons. But yeah, Nick Gordon is firmly the top option off the bench for me. And the way things work with injuries, I mean, that would probably mean playing 140 games a season. And if he hits like this, I have no problem with that.
Speaking of injuries, Sonny Gray left with right hamstring tightness, I believe was the official word on Sonny Gray. Hopefully he's okay. It's been a problem throughout the season for him. He was on and off the injured list to start the year. And he got up to that slow. He was not ramped up and ready to go. That's why he didn't start on opening day. And then he had the hammy and he had the pec and now the hammy again. He's got tightness. It's been a little bit of a struggle with that hamstring this year. You mentioned Jorge Lopez, Brandon, came in and I think had his worst outing of the season for the Twins, probably his worst outing of the year overall. In that 8th inning, it was really ugly, and I think it kind of culminates his overall numbers, which are not pretty since he came over.
Right, and I think you got to go back. I've seen some people talking about the Twins tweaking his pitch mix, and if they did, I don't really understand that. But at the same time, this shows the volatility of why teams don't usually like to trade a bunch of prospects or young players for a reliever, because in a small sample size of just a couple months, a good reliever can have a bad 2 months. A bad reliever can have a good 2 months. I mean, look at Joe Smith to start the season. He was pretty solid for the first month plus, and eventually was DFA'd. Tyler Duffy had moments this year. So that's one thing that fans may not take into account is, this is his tough stretch of the season. Hopefully it's not indicative of something else and the Twins bought at the height of the Jorge Lopez market, so to speak. But again, I can't emphasize enough that I don't understand why he was brought in when he was, because in the instance of Enriquez, he was allowed to face Ahmed Rosario, Stephen Kwan, going backwards through the order. It was basically the top of a very decent order at the top, and he was allowed to face them. That would have been a good time for me to bring in Lopez, if you're asking me.
Maybe it's a good time to go bet on the Minnesota Vikings tonight. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is where the game starts. Head over to BetOnline on their website, betonline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Again, BetOnline is where the game starts in Skull Vikes on Monday night. Brandon Warren, yes, go ahead.
The trick is to bet against the Vikings, because if they win, you're happy, and if they lose, you're happy.
Yes, people have used that strategy in the past, and somehow you still come out sad in some way, right? You either lost or they won, or I always like to double down, and then it's
or they tie.
down. Or they tie, yeah. They lose both. That's ugly. The Twins are 7 games back after this series. They lost 4 out of 5, and we kind of said after the doubleheader that was it, essentially. But they lost 4 out of 5 here, and I think you can officially put that nail in the coffin on this season. What are some reasons, Brandon, for 2023? I think it's going to be hard. I do think it's going to be hard for people to get excited about the team next year. Maybe that's right now that's the case, and it'll get better as we get closer and into the offseason. They have 15 games left. But, why should there be some optimism for 2023 in your mind? Or do you see little reason for optimism?
Well, I think for most fans, it's a fool me once in 2021, a fool me twice this year, which the fool me twice this season didn't come right away. I don't think anybody had extremely high expectations, and then they played fairly decent baseball for a couple of months. So it's going to be a slow burn to get people back, but let's just see how much heartbreak comes at the end of the Vikings season, because I know right now Twins fans are eager to watch the Vikings tonight. That script might be flipped next winter at the end, if it's playoffs or whatever. But for me, when I look at this roster getting healthy, and if you can get 90% of it healthy, that's maybe the best roster in the AL Central. But it comes back on the best roster doesn't always matter. The best roster back in the day, I mean, the Twins in 2002, I keep coming back to that 2002 Twins team, the one that beat the Moneyball A's, not only in the playoffs, but I believe got their win streak, ended their win streak too. I think it was 22 games or something like that. There are teams that are bigger than the sum of their parts, and that's Cleveland right now. That was the Twins back then, 20 years ago. The Twins need to find that it factor. And right now that it factor is missing when they're letting things snowball on them like they did in the 8th inning today. They had that terrible game when Dylan Cease almost no-hit them, in which they used 2 position players in the 8th inning to pitch. And so there's just too much of an unravel factor, to the point where, I'm curious to see what they do at the pitching coach position this offseason, because based on results, the Pete Mackey situation has not been very strong, and you can blame the way the team was built, but then that falls on the front office. I also think, too, another year like this would maybe get the seat under Rocco a little bit spicy, too. So there's going to be some urgency. I'm not sure about the front office, if they're in any kind of danger. I get the sense that probably not. The Twins are a pretty stable organization and have been for a long time. But it's going to be an offseason where they have to move with some urgency. And what's nice is there are some free agents in their price range who should be able to help them do that.
Well, in reality, this is year 6. They're going to be going into year 7, and the average lifespan for a front office is like 5. Usually it's about 5 or 6 years. So they're going into year 7. They're 0-6 in the playoffs. This is 2 now seasons in a row where they're going to miss the playoffs. And I agree with you. Like, this is now an offseason where, to me, the benefit of the doubt they had after 19 and 20 and for 2021, that's kind of slipped away from me. Now it's okay. This team needs to get back on track.
For me, the one thing that I see is the pitching pipeline starting to open up with Louis Varland, Josh Winder, and hopefully Simeon Woods Richardson sometime early next season. But that's right now, that's kind of the one positive you can kind of see from this group. But I think a young, talented position player core, supplemented by, like I said, Xander Bogaerts, or even just keeping Carlos Correa. And I mentioned this on Twitter today too. If you can get Bogaerts plus a pitcher for the price it would cost to keep Correa, you have to think about that too. But heading into season 7 with this front office, 7 or 8, I'm trying to remember. I think you're right. I think it's 7. You'd hope the pitching pipeline would have opened a little faster. Granted, pandemic in 2020 really interrupted a lot of that. Then 2 injuries to Blaine Enlow, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a big pivotal season coming up here. And from this point on to end the season, you got to see how some of these guys who are playing for their futures in the organization play.
Brandon, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for watching. As always, very disappointing series in Cleveland for the Twins. And that is a wrap, as we've said, on the season. And we'll be here, though, because we are committed to you, our listeners, at Locked On Sports Minnesota. Brandon, thank you again.